A best of 5 series between Dark and MaxPax. I mean, this has everything we need for an epic series of StarCraft 2. When it comes to PvZ, I think actually both of these players probably are, like, they play my favorite playstyles, right? So Dark, absolute chaos, super messy strategies in general, and just, the man has no giving up. He generally just keeps going, he keeps pushing, and he comes up with the weirdest stuff just to obtain the victory. MaxPax, on the other hand, right, super clean. Generally speaking, MaxPax actually, I think in his mind, he's probably a little bit better against the likes of, for example, a Serral even, just because, well, Serral's maybe a difficult example, but just because Serral plays very predictably. MaxPax is super good in straight-up StarCraft games, but as soon as he goes up against the likes of, for example, Dark already going for a gold base first, the game does become a lot more complex. And this is what I like. This is what I love to see. I don't think I've ever seen Serral take a gold base first, especially not on Neon Violet Square, because this one is generally your 5th base. Your main, your natural, your 3rd, your 4th, and then your 5th. You may even decide to take the expansion over here in the top left-hand corner. Dark's like, boom, I'll just take it right at the very beginning of the match, and, well, I'll let you come up with something to try and stop me. MaxPax not opting to go for any sort of scouting just yet. He could go for the no scout. No, we're just not scouting whatsoever. So no Cybercore scout either. We're not gonna go for any sort of vision on the other side of the map until an adept will eventually be out. And this is a little risky. Obviously, there's a lot of aggression that Zergs can go for. We've been seeing some 12 pools again from, for example, Raynor going up against MaxPax. This is a little dangerous, because if you go up against any sort of aggression, and you are the Protoss in this setup, you would be in a world of trouble. Now, the drones, they're running past the Supernova Men's Club, Rob's Guns, LNT, Emporio Armoni, Alan's Karaoke Pub, but eventually they make it to the Golden Mineral Fields, and these are going to return 7 minerals a trip rather than the conventional 5. Now, obviously, the downside here for the Zerg is, first off, you lose a little bit of mining time. Drones generally mine about about 1 mineral a second. So you are wasting a little bit of money there, so it's going to take a bit for them to catch up. And there are only 6 mineral fields here in total, rather than the conventional 8. So ultimately, you get about the same amount of income from a gold base as you do a regular blue base. But of course, you do have, well, less of a worker requirement. So you need 12 right here to fully saturate it in this particular instance. One advantage here as well, though, for Dark, as he already managed to get away with this, is that the creep spread that he can start going for very soon can spread from all the way over here, right? Rather than needing to plant down one over here, and another one over here, and then eventually making it. MaxPax still does not know, by the way. Yeah, he can very easily get that creep spread out aggressively onto the map. MaxPax is scouting for a 3rd base. He sees the lack of creep right now, and he realizes that something is a little wild. Hello, says Brenda. How do you do? Brenda not happy about this situation, but she is going to be able to keep her brood alive for now. Oracle number 2 coming up. First one will already be flying across the map. Double Spore Crawler here for Dark. Second Queen just popped out here. Third one also immediately in production. I am liking this position for Dark quite a lot. MaxPax decides to go for a nice and early 3rd base too. Oracle swoops in, kills 1 drone. 2 drones, actually. Does take a bit of base damage, though, so not 100% in love with that. But for 1 drone, I wouldn't have liked it. 2 drones, I guess it's acceptable. Maybe he can get 1 more. Yeah, it's possible. He just doesn't know where the Spore Crawlers and the Queens are. Very quick Evo chamber here as well, actually, for Dark. Are we gonna go +1 melee? Yep, we are. So this is Dark playing very aggressively here over the next couple of minutes. Okay. And this is already so much different, right, than what MaxPax would normally be practicing against on the European server. Say you are MaxPax, who do you usually play against? Well, maybe somebody like Raynor, maybe somebody like Serral, maybe like a Lambo or an Elaser, but none of them play like this. None of them play the way that Dark does, and it's difficult to really get good practice against this sort of playstyle. Now, all the timings that you are used to from Zerg are all out of whack. You can't even really tell if this is going to be an aggressive Zerg or if it's going to be a passive style. Dark plays both. He's droning hard, but he's also sending Zerglings in. He's going +1 melee, but he's also going lair. He's doing a little bit of everything. And we're just running the Zerglings around the map here to keep those mineral lines safe. Okay. Well, MaxPax has decided that he's not going to fight fire with fire. Instead, we're going to try and, well, fight fire with the most conventional follow-up here possible. Good old Blink together with the +1 ground attacks. Blink Stalkers, though, do generally take a beating from +1 melee Zerglings. This is one of those things that's difficult for Protoss to figure out. Okay, he decides to use Revelation here to kill a couple creep tumors. A little, yeah, no. A little overly ambitious there. Loses one of the Oracle. In exchange for a tumor, I don't think it's really worth it. So what MaxPax is trying to do is cut off any of the queens to maybe allow those stalkers. Maybe you can go through the debris over here, the rocks, and then maybe kill the hatchery over here on the low ground. Something along those lines. But you do need a lot of stasis wards in order for that to work. Dark also decided to skip the Roach Warren. He decided to skip the Baneling Nest, go straight into a Hydralisk Den. I feel like playing against Dark is such a menace. Now he goes Baneling Nest. But any sort of Glaive to Depth push, any sort of Zealot attack, there's lots of aggression that could have been an absolute disaster. Dark's like, nah, you're MaxPax, you're not gonna do that. I will just play whatever I feel like would be best in this particular scenario. Okay, well, apparently we're thinking about reinforcing any of those Stalkers by building Stalkers out on the map. I don't know if I like this all too much for MaxPax. His economy is fine. His unit count is decent, but this has not been a clean early game for him. He's lost an Oracle as well. I've got a feeling that this positioning over here is actually super good. There's not a lot of surface area here for the Lynx to really find optimal engagements. And obviously the Stalkers being able to shoot at range, whoo, they actually find a killer fight. We haven't seen a lot of fights actually within these squares on this map, even though the map has been around for a long time. That is cool. Huh. Alright, you know what? Scratch whatever I said about MaxPax's strategy. I kind of love it. Using the big blocks. Keep in mind though that Dark doesn't really need to fight here. There's very little for Dark to gain. He just wants to make sure that the Protoss doesn't get too close to his hatcheries here. Dark is already going into +2, by the way. That +2 is really early. Baneling speed coming up. Hydra speed also on the production tab. Another stasis ward gets triggered. Okay, he pushes these units away for now. Charge is just about to finish here too for Max, who's now aggressively boosting the +2. Robo facility. Gold base also building here for MaxPax, so he does have a backup plan in case the Stalker attack does not work out. Stasis ward over here. Oh, grabs a lot of units. Yep, and that is forcing Dark to once more retreat. There's one Hydra pretending to be in stasis. If you just stand really still, maybe they'll leave you alone. Nope, they didn't. Spoiler alert. Pretending like you're a statue does not work out. Banelings are now also available though, and that means that charge slots are going to be difficult to play. We do have a group of Zealots going around the site, but reinforcing Lings and the Queens from the hatcheries are going to be able to take care of those pretty easily. Rather than going after the gateway here, okay, Dark does decide to turn around. He was chasing down the army, a little risky. In a straight-up engagement, the Hydras definitely do win against Stalkers. Only a handful of units have been left around. Ooh. Okay. Still fine for these Zealot trades, by the way. Dark has now found the gold base here of MaxPax. Yeah, this is gonna get shut down eventually. Okay. An explosive start to the series here. And I think this is exactly what Dark likes to do. This is exactly the type of game he enjoys playing the most. We don't have to worry about the late game situation right now if we just, well, make it impossible for Protoss to ever get there. Oh, brilliant fight here. Yeah, Dark may have just destroyed MaxPax. This is honestly not even close. It's just that MaxPax... So this is where MaxPax, I feel like, has a weakness in his play. He's extremely good in straightforward games of StarCraft, the type of game that you see 99% of the time on the European ladder. But as soon as you go up against these Zerg players that throw curveball after curveball, it's extremely difficult for him to really find his footing. So he decided to just be aggressive and fight Dark down in the mud. But, yeah, nobody wrestles better than Dark. We do have the Zealots getting a bit of damage done on the other side of the map, but this is way too much damage. Dark completely ignoring the gateway there initially and also ignoring the gold base. He just saw an opportunity and he went straight for the throat. Next up, we find ourselves on Ley Lines. This map doesn't really have nearly as much shenanigans, right? No real weird antics you can go for here as a Zerg player, generally speaking. I mean, obviously Dark has many weird strats. There are some rich Vespene gas geysers, but there's no quick gold bases or anything along those lines. But that certainly did show Dark in a nutshell. So, where do we go now? Do we change anything up? This time around it's going to be MaxPax who gets to decide the pacing of the game, as he is sending a probe right at the very beginning of the match straight across. Are we going to go proxy hatch? Oh my, yes, I think we are. Oh, I love watching Dark play. Dark's like, okay, I wanted to go natural expansion first, buddy. You have forced my hand. Every Zerg player under the sun goes for, debated. Every Zerg player under the sun would go for the third base. He sent another drone down to the low ground, took his natural expansion regardless, and is now planning on taking his opponent's natural expansion too. Yeah. So we're going hatchery into hatchery. One of them in your own natural, one of them inside of the opponent's natural. No gas geyser yet until just now, and then no spawning pool. So this is one of those things that isn't even really designed to deal a lot of damage. This is just here to be a prick. Yeah. Now, I do think actually MaxPax is very good against this sort of thing. Because even though this is a bit wild and wacky, this is the type of stuff that gets played quite frequently. This is super annoying if you're like a... I think if you're like a Diamond League Protoss player, this is your worst nightmare right here. I know there's a lot of Diamond League Protoss players that really enjoy playing that Skytoss ball and they like playing the aggressive mid games. This is the type of thing that just throws you way off your game plan. Okay, so maybe we can use this as an opportunity to figure out what you're supposed to do. So he decided to go second gateway here. Made one Zealot straight into double Adept, it seems. One probe working on the hatchery, which is kind of curious to me. Generally, we see a few more. Normally, we see 4 probes. This is apparently enough to kill it eventually, but it's not going to be killed before the hatchery finishes. And that means that Dark is going to try and see if he can make a few lings here, and maybe even a queen. Yeah, we're doing both. I recently saw MaxPax actually deal with a relatively similar scenario from Raynor, and he did it pretty much flawlessly. So this is a Stargate follow-up. Bit of a delayed Stargate because of the double Adept situation. It does mean that he needed that second gas nice and early as well. So the main goal right now for Dark is to continue being as much a jerk as possible. If he can have Brenda poop somewhere in the corner, and it's what Brenda likes to do, we don't judge. When you invite Brenda to a party, you know you're always gonna have to deal with that. Brenda's gonna try and poop in the corner somewhere. Yep, there she goes. Oh, she's body blocked it. She is protecting it with her life. And you know what? This is super annoying. When this creep tumor finishes, how are you gonna expand? Oh, what? Yo, I think he had like... That could have been the game. That was extremely close. I actually thought it was already burrowing underground. So the problem is, if that... I mean, you can use the Oracle, right? You can use the Oracle, throw the Revelation down, but it slows everything so much. Now suddenly, though, this is a bit of an awkward game. Zerg has lost 825 minerals. Protoss has lost a Zealot. He was forced to cancel something too. And obviously MaxPax is forced to play a different game that he was originally intending on, but this is totally fine here for the Danish Protoss. Nah, don't activate the Pulsar Beam. He's waiting for a second Oracle, maybe? Okay. Okay. Large group of Zerglings, by the way, still out front. Normally, Protoss players will send these Adepts out. MaxPax, however, he realizes what needs to be done. He's gonna wait a little bit. Yeah. The Zerglings are hiding at the bottom of the map. Second Oracle will be available. It's rallied on top of the first. Twilight Council on the back it is. If you go for like a Glaive to Depth follow-up here, maybe even a Zealot push, you can deal a tremendous amount of damage. I wouldn't really mind that here from MaxPax, because he knows that this game is much better for him now. Then again, though, he hasn't yet seen a third hatchery for Zerg, so you don't really know what Dark is up to. Dark could already have a lair, right? Like, he doesn't. We can see, but MaxPax can't really make those assumptions at this point. Drone is going to get sniped. Lings do get a bit of a wraparound to some of these units, but this is not a great fight here for the Zerg. 3 drones going down. This was already a small economy here for Dark, and now obviously he's also seen that there is no lair. Drones decide to swoop in. High HP Oracle in the front. Low HP Oracle in the back. New Oracle. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Joining with the others in just a moment. And we're gonna go for charge slots. I love it. Yeah. Normally MaxPax doesn't really play charge slot all-ins. And this doesn't necessarily have to be an all-in for him. But he's looking at this game right now and he's thinking, yo, you're probably not in a comfortable position. You have very little of anything. What if I just send a bunch of charge slots down your base and see how it goes? Yeah, when MaxPax is forced out of his comfort zone, like for example in that previous game, and he has to go out into the map and do something that he doesn't really like doing, that's where he seems to be vulnerable. But when he gets to play that more defensive craziness, his defensive craziness is really, really good. I feel like maybe a year or so ago, he wasn't quite comfortable playing that either. I feel like that's really the only thing holding MaxPax back at this point in time. And he really is, in my mind, it's not even particularly close. He really is the #1 Protoss player in the world. Some people will say hero, but the games that I've seen MaxPax play as of late are just so crisp. So beautiful. The previous game was an example, though, of a weakness that MaxPax still has. For now. For now. Wouldn't be surprised if these things, in like the next, I don't know, 6 to 12 months, are going to be entirely resolved as well. Creep tumors are getting sniped. Oh, this one gets cancelled because of it too, because that one was still active. Now charge is done. Only 4 gateways, so this is by no means an all-in for Max. He decides to play this relatively conservatively, as he also has a 3rd Nexus on the back of it. Obviously a very late 3rd Nexus. Charge slots now reveal themselves to the Zerglings, and immediately roaches fire up for Dark. We've got some Archon drops coming in. Mostly just a janitor squad over here, apparently. I kind of like, actually, showing your opponent a bunch of Zealots, forcing out a whole lot of production, and then doing Archon drops. Yeah, normally you wouldn't expect charge here. What are the odds of Dark going Mutas? I guess that would be the biggest problem here for the Protoss. I mean, it's Dark, so the odds are never 0, but it would be quite difficult to pull off. After Dark fell behind earlier, yeah, he's trying to follow this up with a very conventional style. Yeah, let's not oversell the advantage here, though, for MaxPax. I like this position for him better, but this is still one of those spots where things can go horribly wrong. Untreaded waters here, I think, for MaxPax for the most part. And I think that's sort of like his main weakness, if I can really describe it as such. So I think Dark is really good at thinking on the fly. MaxPax strikes me as one of those players who needs to have seen a situation before and then, you know, played against it a couple of times to figure out what the perfect response is. And these are the type of games that you can't really practice for very easily. Because, I mean, this is like, you know, like, I don't know how, after how many moves in a game of chess are you in like a unique scenario most of the time, right? Like, this is one of those things where there's so many moving parts. You can play similar looking games, but these are the type of situations you don't find yourself in nearly as frequently at 9 minutes. And Dark's very good at thinking on the fly. MaxPax less so. It's a different approach, really. I feel like Serral, for example, is not necessarily the most creative player. Clem also wouldn't really categorize him as a creative player, and those are the absolute cream of the crop. It's just a different way of playing the game, right? Like, say, for example, there's a new multiplayer balance patch right now and it overhauls everything. Dark will be very quick to figure out the most abusive stuff. Those other guys, including MaxPax, in my mind, not so much. Zealots swoop in on the other side of the map, though, as we do have a big fight happening up north. Great force fields over here, slicing up a lot of this Zerg army. Fourth hatchery for Zerg in a world of trouble. It stays alive for now. Immortals here are really helping out a lot, though. Zealots now do get intercepted eventually with the queens inside of that choke point. Those Immortals are so nice. Oracle swoop in as well since there's no more anti-air. Hatchery at the 12 o'clock is going to go down. Expertly executed here by MaxPax. He doesn't have a fourth Nexus himself either, but what he does have is the weather forecast. And it turns out it's stormy. I'm just picturing him now, picturing him in like a full suit playing this game, you know? Pointing at a green screen or whatever they use. War Prism heading on over towards the main base. Dark is trying to re-secure a fourth. This time around in a different spot. The Immortal count is growing. We now have about as many Immortals as we have Roaches, which is not a good situation for the Roaches at all. Hydras, luckily I guess for Dark, don't get absolutely torn apart by Immortals, but yeah, I'm still not really liking Hydras versus Immortals and Archons very much, especially not with Zealots in the mix. Especially not with Storm in the mix either. Fourth Nexus coming up here for Max. Okay. +2. Looks like we've decided to take a bit of a breather here. Yeah. I don't mind it. It's always important to keep in mind that in these type of games, we can see everything that's happening. And it's pretty easy for us to look at this and be like, huh, why didn't you just do this and this and that instead? Very freaking hard when you're actually in this situation and you have to deal with all the limited information. How do you determine at this point whether or not you're ahead or behind? Couple reinforcing units trying to come in from the site. I love this stasis ward. Yeah, that's going to slow down that aggression. Zealots are charging away at these Hydras. Another storm is indeed going to blanket some of these Hydralisks, but the Roaches will stay alive. A lot of additional Hydras coming in though, and I don't really mind the Hydras very much. Mass Hydra can definitely win. It's just that you need like an overwhelming amount of them. And Dark has only got 63 workers. Maybe if he gets up to like 200 supply or something, then I can kind of see it happening, but yeah, at that point you will be facing off against like 160 supply of Protoss, and it's just not really a unit composition that's going to work out too well. Okay, Dark has decided to take a bit of a chance. He's going to go into the Infestation Pit and probably a Lurker Den and a Hive. That does mean that he needs several minutes here to make that proper transition. Now, catching a bunch of these Zealots is really nice. He is still fighting on the other side of the map too, but I don't think he really wants to commit that much. Fifth hatchery coming up for Dark too. Obviously, he does have that rich Vespian gas geyser soon at his disposal as well. He needs to mine out the skinny mineral field first, and then he will be able to grab the rich gas. You do need 8 gas geysers to be able to play Lurkers properly. Yep, and that is indeed exactly what he's going to go for. Another stasis ward. Oh. There's just stasis wards everywhere now. Apparently MaxPax also decides to tack up into a fleet beacon. This is not good actually for Zerg. When Protoss is making a fleet beacon at the same time as you're making a Lurker Den. Yeah. I mean, it's an indication that MaxPax wants to go into the Mothership. Maybe even carriers and Tempests and all that. Not really the target that Lurkers are great at. I mean, they don't shoot up, so suboptimal to say the least. The Zealots decide to not go through the flanks, but just straight through the center of the map. More Lings are traded out against it. I don't mind it. A little bit of aggression here to keep the Zerg player honest. Not a Warpin in the far bottom right. This does get spotted by Dark, but it is annoying. I think this is actually mostly just for the Mothership. We don't have a second Stargate, and we don't have any other reason for him to do anything else. I think just the Mothership here would be good. It is obviously very expensive, and if you're gonna warp in 5 High Templar, it'll get even more difficult to produce. Lurker range coming up together with the Jumpy ability for the Hydralisks. The Nanomuscular Swell Research. There you go. There's the caster flex for the day. It unlocks the lunge for the Hydras. And, I mean, Dark seems to kind of like it. Every other Zerg player out there is like, doesn't do much. It's whatever. Dark seems to quite enjoy it. This is mostly MaxPax trying to clear out some of the map. Although, he's diving pretty deep. Maybe? I mean, this is an awkward engagement. I don't know if I love this, but I think it's okay. Yeah, this seems dangerous, though, because you're inviting the Zerg to collapse on you with multiple armies at the same time. MaxPax, though, decides to just slowly storm his way backwards. Retreating storms. Queen's trying to transfuse these Hydras back up to full. The lunge is now completed. Where are we going to lunge to, though? Are you going to take me out to lunge with the Hydras? Okay, no, sorry. The Mothership now. Oh, there it is. Wow. And the crowd goes mild. Yeah, this is one of those moments now, though. Yeah, exactly, where the Hydras are actually quite strong. Against pure Lurk, or pure Immortal, rather, like this, it is actually quite difficult for the Zerg player to, or for the Protoss player, rather, to defend against those Hydras. Oh my god. Now we're just showing off with the Hydralisks. Okay. Well, MaxPax has decided to smash his piggy bank. He's been saving up all of his birthday money, his Christmas money. Grandma came over one day, and he's managed to afford a mama ship. And I've got a feeling that she's going to seal the deal. Not really anything here for Dark to do against the Mothership. Dark is desperately trying to not die, okay? Like, in this type of situation, what you really want to do as Zerg is make like a dozen Corruptors. But he doesn't have a Spire. He doesn't have the money for one. He definitely can't afford sitting here without spending his money for like a minute. So he needs to somehow accumulate enough here to get Corruptors going. Hydras are like a second choice. But Hydras against this type of army and then a Mothership that can cloak the units underneath? I want to believe. But I don't. Because I've seen these games before. Yeah, I think the transition here towards the Mothership is excellent. There she is. She's just hanging out for now. MaxPax is trying to do the win by not using my best unit challenge. I don't know why. He's trying to just see if he can obtain the victory right here, right now. So, Hydras can definitely kill a Mothership. It's just that he can't really get close enough to kill the Mothership. Because there's a lot of Protoss army that can keep this at bay. The Storms are going to be lethal. The Archons are going to be amazing. The Immortals will put in a lot of supplemental damage. Even Zealots are going to be good against this sort of thing. MaxPax is thinking, though, yo, why take any risks? Let me just build up 2 additional Stargates too. I'll start producing my Tempests. And I will just rub even more salt in the wound. This will be the first time that Dark sees Mama. Mama! Oh, well, it was the first and the last time. That was a brilliant game of StarCraft. Yeah, that's the MaxPax that I like to see. Maybe a little bit overly aggressive. But at least he didn't really give Dark any wiggle room to move away, right? I think normally MaxPax would play that out a little bit differently. But he's thinking, yo, if I'm not careful, if I don't keep the pressure up, if I go AFK for like 30 seconds and I give Dark too much time, there's a good chance there's suddenly going to be like 20 Mutalisks in my base or something else stupid. He's going to start hitting me with Nidus Worms or something annoying like that. If I just keep pushing forward and I just keep clearing out the map and I just keep clearing out all of the creep, he's not going to be able to make a weird transition that I'm not prepared for, and it worked out brilliantly there. Yeah, Dark just not having an answer to the Mothership, not being in the situation at all to really counter Skytles. He was playing survival, and it was going okay, until Mama showed up and her buddies. Yeah. It is what it is. Okay, so where do we go from here? Well, Dark apparently decides to just play a normal game. His natural expansion got blocked again, but he decided to go into the third base rather than his opponent's natural. This kind of now feels like Dark has been punched in the gut a couple of times. It's like, okay, I'll play normal. Oh, jeez. It's not what I want to do, but I guess I'll play normal then. The thing is, in a straight-up game of Protoss versus Zerg, I don't see Dark winning against MaxPax. Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm thinking about this now. I used to pretty much favor Dark in most macro games. In a straight-up game of StarCraft 2, I don't think MaxPax loses really against anybody. Maybe Serral, but not necessarily that obvious. It's probably like a 50-50 between him and Serral. In a straight-up macro game, Dark's definitely not as clean as Serral. I've got a feeling MaxPax certainly has the upper hand there. So MaxPax will probably try to play a normal game. It'll be very much so up to Dark to mix it up. And there are a lot of ways to mix it up. Nidus Worms, like I mentioned, a very real possibility. You can go Swarmhost Nidus, you can go Lurker Nidus, you can go Lurker Drops, you can go Mutas, you can do Ling Bane run, but there's a lot of stuff you can do. But I think it's very much so for Dark here to do something. Maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe we'll just get a normal game of StarCraft, a straightforward game of StarCraft where Zerg is going to go Roaches into Hydra Lurker and then eventually Vipers and Corruptors and maybe try to do that thing that Serral does, right? With the Brute Lords and try to go Infestors and Vipers and all the rest of it. It's possible. It's possible. It just seems extremely hard. Turns out, even in a video not featuring Serral, I'm still fanboying over Serral. Go figure. I decided to temporarily replace my MaxPax and Dark fanboying with Serral fanboying instead. How nice is that? Okay. Well, so far, conventional StarCraft. We've got ourselves a second gateway over here at the front that's going to delay the third. But Max is still going to be able to go for about a 352, I'm going to say. Something went wrong. Something is wrong. His base is 5 seconds later than it should have been. Anyways. Maybe he made an extra unit. Maybe something... Yeah, that's what happened. Okay, he lost one adept. Unplayable. MaxPax washed up. Confirmed. Second Oracle is now available. First one is already on the other side of the map. Throwing little, I don't know. What are they? Red snowflakes? Isn't this what you... When you put a snowflake under a microscope, isn't this what you get? Pretty sure. Another one trying a little bit of luck over at the third. But not quite going to happen. So Dark is perfectly capable of playing a macro game, by the way. It's just that we don't really see it that much. I don't know if it's like a confidence thing or if he just doesn't want to play that way very often. It's just that we see a lot of games end by like minute 15 these days. We don't really see Dark playing like a long game. Oh, couple of drones. Okay, one. Just one. Trying to see if we can get one as well for free over at this base, but not going to happen. Should be Blink together with +1. Yep. Extra gateways are coming up as well. MaxPax playing as normal here as possible. Evo Chamber at a very conventional time too, if not even a little bit late. Roachwarn, I guess? Oh no, we're going for a fourth hatch. Okay, he decides to go straight into the Hydra then. So that, I guess, is technically a little bit risky. MaxPax actually now playing against the Zerg again, though. He did this earlier on in this series too. Going up against the Zerg player again, who skips the Bailing Nest and who skips the Roachwarn. It is risky. It is very risky. And I'm sure MaxPax has taken a note of this too. Lucky for us, we're gonna get at least one more map, because this is a best of 5 series. Would not be surprised if MaxPax goes for some sort of Twilight Council play in the next one. Like, Glaive the Depths would be absolutely lethal here. Instead, we're gonna go into a Robo Bay for now, though. So, Stalkers into Colossus. And there's the Roach Warren. So, like, if you're gonna make a Roach Warren, I understand the reasoning for delaying it. But you dice to so many attacks. Anyways, it's gonna be okay. Dark gets away with it this time around. He's sitting at 69 workers. Nice! Sorry. MaxPax not quite at that amount just yet, but he will be heading on over in that direction in a moment, because we will probably see a 4th Nexus planted here soon. Hydras are gonna get the ranged upgrade. We should probably see an Infestation Pit in a moment too, but for now, the aggression will take place over at this newly acquired hatchery. MaxPax doesn't like it. No, he's not a fan. There's very little creep spread in this region. The creep that came was mostly from that Overlord dropping it. Taking a page out of Brenda's book from that previous match. And this is a really good attack though for MaxPax, it looks like. Hydras are strong in these situations. So, what MaxPax has seen thus far, and this is really nice preemptive thinking here, MaxPax has seen only Zerglings. He's making the assumption there's no Roach Warren. There is a Roach Warren now. Mostly just as like a absolute necessity, I guess. You kind of do need one in case of what MaxPax is going for here. But Colossi are going to be amazing against both Hydralisks as well as Zerglings. So that will be the weapon of choice. Great dancing. Those rocks just timed out. They have a limited amount of life. They time out at about 757. Stalkers are going to be forced to retreat now, though. Yeah, this is where Hydras do pop off. When the Hydra numbers go up, the Stalkers just can't really hold themselves anymore. This is like high damage units versus high damage units. Not a ton of survivability on either, but luckily, of course, the Stalkers can be blinked backwards. Zerglings will soon wake up, but that Colossus is going to come in clutch, and upon seeing it, Dark decides to retreat immediately. It's a skyscraper that shoots lasers. Run away. Ranged is going to finish up for that too in just a moment. Stasis wards are planted down all over the place. Dude. Remember when the new balance patch first was announced and Reddit was losing its mind on whether or not the energy overcharge would be better or the shield battery overcharge? Now that the dust has settled a little bit, I gotta say, I love energy overcharge about 10 times more than I do battery recharge. Anyways, Colossus a little bit further ahead of the rest of the pack, but the stasis ward bait was beautiful. I've been starting to see some Zerg players losing their minds over the amount of stasis wards out on the map. Every game of PvZ just has stasis wards everywhere you go. Oh. I feel like the Protoss players at a high level have been stepping up their Colossus micro lately. Interestingly enough, I first saw this from Clem. Clem was very diligent with keeping his Colossi alive. Looks like MaxPax may have also looked at that. He's like, wait a second. I can just pull them back like that? Vipers are coming though, and they're going to be able to pull those units pretty easily. Dark has now lost his 69th drone, but he's got a decent number remaining. This dancing here is excellent. Yeah, I think we all know what MaxPax does in his free time. Pro gamers are known for their phenomenal dancing skills. Trust me, I've gone clubbing with pro gamers before at StarCraft tournaments in the past. Yoink! That's nice. Oh, he tried to get a Viper in retaliation, but did not quite get it done. I'm pretty sure MaxPax just plays Protoss, by the way. I don't think he does anything but play Protoss. MaxPax is always playing. I'm pretty sure MaxPax wakes up in the morning, and then he probably does like, I don't know what a Danish morning routine would be like. Apparently he likes to run, and we found out recently he likes to bake bread. But remember the game that he had to pause because he had bread in the oven? And I'm pretty sure that's all he does. He's always playing StarCraft. He plays a stupid amount of StarCraft. This is a scary push, though. Another good yoink. That's another Colossus down the drain. We are in the middle of that proper late game transition. That's exactly when Dark decides to jump. This is when Zerg is probably at its scariest. Good feedback there on an Overseer. Fair enough. Useful enough, I guess. The fourth Nexus, though, is in a world of trouble. There is a backup fort on the left side of the map. 14 probes have gone down. There's still a bunch of them waiting over here at the bottom for a new mineral field to mine, but in the meantime, there is a chunk of Protoss, actually, that split off from the rest of the pack. That is... You guys took a wrong turn. I think you were supposed to go north. Yeah, now you're just gonna die. Okay. Lovely attack right there by Dark. Beautiful push, actually. There is a little bit of a Zealot warp in. So this is that scary moment. This is what we see Protoss struggle with time and time again in this... like, ever since the new multiplayer balance patch came out. It's that transition to a fleet beacon, to a mothership, to additional stargates, to everything else. Mid-game is strong for Protoss, late game is strong for Protoss, but the time in between the mid-game and the late game, when Protoss puts down the fleet beacon and they usually go +1 air weapons and additional stargates, that seems to be a real vulnerability. And again, Dark is showing us that that is exactly when he decides to strike. He's not done yet. This is basically just continued Roach Hydra aggression. He does have the lunge ability once more. Hey, he found a bunch of those probes that were hiding at the bottom of the map too. MaxPax selecting them, trying to get them to mine on over here. It loses a whole load of them in the process. But, she's on her way. Mama, she's on her way. She'll be here soon. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. We don't yet have a Spire. And without a Spire, yeah, like we saw in the previous game, good luck trying to kill Mama. She does take a long time to come out, though. I'm not gonna lie. She's a little shy. I think, though, Protoss over the next few months are going to really refine this transitionary period. Because it's a lot of strategy, mostly. Dark's trying to see if he can win this game before it really gets to that point. Here she is. Keep in mind that she can no longer be yoinked by a Viper. Blinding Clouds go down. Cloaking has also gone down. Great zoning here, though, by the Zerg player. And another Nexus falls. There is a Zealot or two going to town on the other side of the map. Reinforcing Zergs should be able to clean all of that up. In the meantime, though, MaxPax has actually done a lot of damage. It's been a few drones here and there. Not that long ago, Dark was sitting at 69 workers. Now he's only at 46. He's desperately trying to end the game before this goes to distance. And I believe that maybe he overextended. New drones coming up. He realizes now, too, that he needs some more workers. And those handful of Zealots, like, it's just been a few Zealots here and there. 28 drones. Gotta respect the Zealots. Suddenly, what was looking like a Zerg victory is turning into a supply advantage for MaxPax. Plus, MaxPax now also has the tech advantage. He really needs more economy, decides to rebuild the Nexus over here on the left. Dark's doing the same thing, though, on the other side of the map. But he's doing it with golden minerals. Golden minerals, of course, do work out really nicely with this type of economy. Dark, though, not going into a Spire. And that's a big problem when you did lose a bunch of those workers. I don't think you can really go from Roach Hydra into a Spire unless you have at least like 80, maybe 75. Okay, at least like 75 drones. Dark's not in a position like that at all. So, okay, he decides to counterattack. He knows that the Protoss army is not at home. Maybe a recall? I think recalling would not be a bad idea. Okay, Protoss army is kind of disjointed now, though. Zealots are going to town on the other side of the map, picking up some of the Hydralisks too, mostly going after the drones. There's the Mothership dealing a bunch of damage by herself. The lunge ability gets activated on the Hydras to try and get away from the Mama. Hatchery falls. An observer just checking out whatever Zerg is reinforcing with. And I'm pretty sure you're quite happy here as Protoss when you see that it's just more of the same units you've been fighting for the last 10 minutes. It's just going to be more Roach Hydra Ling. MaxPax wants to continue the aggression. There is Nexus energy here, so I do think you probably want to move back home. Really? We're going to go counterattack again? I'm not so sure that is the right call. Time Warp is going to at least scare those Roaches and Hydras away over here, but the fourth Nexus is going to fall for what I believe is the fourth time. MaxPax apparently believes that he can keep this army at bay using his reinforcements. There's an abduction. Okay, he does decide to recall these troops eventually, but the indecisiveness here of MaxPax is actually costing him dearly. Yeah, not that long ago, he was quite far ahead. Now I'm not liking his position nearly as much. He's got a really good army. Yeah, he's got a really good army, but just not the economy anymore now. Income-wise, Dark has actually taken a lead. But Dark is still not confident in going into Aspire. So there is that awkward moment where Zerg just has Hydras, and Hydras technically shoot up, but not really. Like, technically they're an anti-air unit, but realistically they kind of don't fulfill that job particularly well. We have a recall towards the Mothership. Reinforcements are going to show up. MaxPax is trying to see if he can harass this base some more. Worker disadvantage or not, if these drones aren't mining, that should work out quite well. This is a free set of roaches. Cloak gets activated, not bad at all. Free pickings. It's because Dark, though, has his eyes set on the natural expansion as well as the third. Reinforcing units here for MaxPax have been warping in over there, and he's creating a bit of a sandwich on some of those units too, as now the rest of his army has come back home. Okay, Zealot's getting warped in the natural expansion. Dark is finding himself between, well, a Protoss base and a Protoss army. These units are all going to get picked off. Overextension here from Dark. Whew. MaxPax grabs the supply lead again. And now suddenly, Dark's army is 1 Roach and 15 Hydras. He still has a Viper, but you can't abduct the Mothership. Decides to tap out. Yep, there is really no way for Dark to solve this puzzle anymore. It was a hard-fought victory, but MaxPax gets the job done. Alrighty, El Dorado. Match point here for MaxPax. Not a clean game. Not a clean game on Amygdala at all. But he got the job done eventually. Yeah, that's also the type of game, though, that I was trying to highlight earlier. It's the type of match that MaxPax doesn't have nearly as much experience as Dark. Like, Dark's been playing that sort of thing for a decade and a half. He loves it. MaxPax has not really been playing the game for that long, right? MaxPax was like 4 years old. A decade and a half ago. Yeah, let that sink in for a little. When a lot of the pro gamers in StarCraft 2 that still are pro gamers right now started playing in 2010, the absolute top dogs just learned how to hold a pen. They were still trying to jam square cubes into the circular holes, you know? It is what it is. Look, we've all done it. Connect the lines. Yeah, I don't know about connecting the lines, dude. I'll be honest with you, I didn't have much patience for coloring within the lines. No. Coloring within the lines has never been my strong suit. No, I wasn't a fan of that. Anyways, it's gonna be a Void Ray first here for MaxPax. I want to keep my eye out on the Twilight Council upgrade. I haven't seen these games, obviously, but I am gonna say that MaxPax is gonna go Glaive to Depths. Mostly because Dark has been skipping the Roach Warren, and he has also been skipping the Baneling Nest. I feel like it's almost a no-brainer. The Void Ray over here is, going to be really good at denying any sort of scouting. Maybe it's not gonna be Glaive to Depths, but I think something aggressive. I don't think we're just gonna go into Blink. We could. Blink is fine. It's just unnecessary here. He's got a bit of wiggle room now. If we want to go for any sort of aggression, right now would be the time. Twilight Council goes down. If he puts a Forge right next to it, it's going to be Blink. Every time MaxPax put a Forge and a Twilight Council right next to each other, it's always Blink. It's a gateway! It's a gateway! It's not going to be Blink. Dude, I look so smart here. If this is actually going to be Glaives, you guys will have to hit the like button. Yeah, that's okay, let's see. I'm just gonna look at the Twilight Council now. I want to see if I am smart. Years of gaming. They have led up to this moment. Don't let me down, MaxPax. Okay, we're harassing with the Void Ray. Max. Ah! I called it in the previous game, dude. My brain's so huge right now. Like, it used to be a bowling ball. like smooth, perfectly polished, but I can feel a little wrinkle growing right now. There's gonna be people out there that will accuse me of pre-watching the games. Yeah, yeah. And that's like playing Call of Duty and being accused of being a wall hacker, you know? Or like playing StarCraft 2 and being accused of being a map hacker or something like that, dude. It's the biggest honor you can bestow upon a caster. When I get the prediction right! Oh. All right, anyways, I believe it's a good choice, mostly because, sorry, I'm done patting myself on the back. I think it's a good choice because of the fact that Dark keeps skipping out on the Roach Warren. Now, obviously, this is the one game where he doesn't skip out on the Roach Warren. This is the one time he does go Roach Warren, but it's a late Roach Warren. So let's see how much damage these Adepts can do. This is honestly kind of dangerous. These Adepts are gonna get an attack speed increase right now. 2 of them are gonna split off to the third. The rest are heading on over towards the natural. The Void Ray from earlier being an absolute prick, dragging the queens away. 10 drones go down just like that. Yeah, brilliant game here by Max. I think especially his strategy is brilliant, guys. In like another 5 years of me casting games, all I'm doing is just patting myself on the back the entire time. Yeah, I could not have come up with a more brilliant strategy than this. Now, this is really bad for Dark. He's getting punished for the delayed Roach Warren. So he's been doing this every time. Delayed Roach Warren, delayed Baiting Nest, just straight lings into preferably Hydras. And it works well most of the time, but I think in a series like this, you can't really do that over and over and over again. You get punished for playing greedily. And MaxPax has done his analysis here. Okay, Infestation Pit coming up right now for Dark. He's gonna have to do something. I don't think you can really just... Well, you can drone and try to catch up, I guess. The follow-up for Max, though, is going to be Blink together with +1. Dude, there's gonna be somebody watching this for the very first time. Somebody's gonna be watching this for the very first time and thinks to themselves, oh my god, this guy is so full of himself. All these YouTubers are the same, man. Ugh. So full of himself. Look, I make 20 predictions every week in StarCraft casts, and 19 of them are wrong. I gotta celebrate the one time I do it correctly. Alright, anyways, it's going to be a standard follow-up. Dark. Okay, Dark decides to go into the Swarm Host. This guy is so arrogant. Dark decides to go into the Swarm Hosts. Yep, and he kind of needs to do something. I like it. I think the Swarm Host transition here is pretty solid. It's just a bit late. Generally, we see Swarm Hosts before this point. Nidus Worm together with the Swarm Hosts. Dark's plan is to try and keep this Protoss army as small as possible. He needs to make sure that this Protoss player does not max out. If MaxPax is going to be MaxPax, that would be a massive problem for Dark. Swarm Hosts are very supply heavy, but not very supply efficient, right? So they can deal a lot of damage and they really do pack a punch, but the bigger the Protoss army becomes, the harder it'll be for Dark to keep this occupied. And MaxPax is still playing like he's way more aggressive here than he was against Raynor. Prism is gonna go down at least, so that's a good beginning. Swarm Hosts actually get activated over here. Oh man, when you have to use your Swarm Host Locust defensively, absolute disaster. Great gameplay here by MaxPax. Not really finding any mistakes in this game. Nope. I think this is, yeah, you could tell that MaxPax was a little flustered in game number 1. But the rest of this game is, or the rest of this series rather, has been really good. Not as dominant against, or as he did against, for example, Raynor. I couldn't find any mistakes at the time. He just played so well. Dark is a bit of a different player here, but this is all very well executed. He's trying to bait them towards that stasis. Hey, there it is. Dark not paying attention because he's busy microing over here. He does have enough roaches, though, to push back those stalkers for the time being. And this is certainly not Dark out of this game yet. It's just that we're trading back and forth. And Dark is stuck on a Roach Swarm Host-based army, whereas MaxPax has a lot of economy here. And he's just... yeah, he's winning most of the engagements. The traits over here are fine. Good enough to keep that Zerg army pinned back. Kills a hatchery. He now knows that Protoss is, gonna have the economical advantage for sure. Storm is done. Does he have Storm? Oh my god, he does have Storm as well. Another big stasis ward goes off. This is Dark's army over here. It's 2 Locust. He's got 2 Locust and a Dream. Stalkers in the meantime are apparently not entirely done yet. They've got the taste for blood. They see a couple Swarm Hosts. Pick them off as well. You can just blink after this, or behind rather, this gold mineral line as well. Well, you can also just stand and fight. Yeah. Yeah, this is painful here for Dark. And this is all just a continuation of him delaying his Roach Warren. He fell behind because he delayed the Roach Warren again. He posted about 7 Gs there. I think that's even better than the single G. We see the single GG, F10N, right? Like the select game and end the game immediately. But yeah, that many Gs, I guess, also does the trick. And I think it's very fair. MaxPax played a phenomenal series. This last one certainly being the most dominant game. GG.